Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
Hello and welcome to the Three Martini Lunch, sitting in for Greg Corombos. I'm Brett Winterble, happy to be joined by Jim Garrity. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Brett, good to be here.
It is good to have you here. I'll tell you what, it's the end of the week. I'm ready for some martinis, and I see a good one coming our way. It involves 6 million enrollees and questions. What's going on here, Jim?
Sure. Well, the good news, and most people are like, what, this is your good martini? Well, actually, a decent amount of the coverage yesterday in response to the Department of Health and Human Services announcing that 6 million people have enrolled, and I'm making air quotes as I make that, as I emphasize that word, in the Obamacare exchange and the state exchanges. A lot of folks have said, well, wait a second, how many of these people have paid? And some insurance companies have said that 15% haven't paid yet. Some say 20. Some earlier in the year it was significantly higher. If you don't pay, you don't get the insurance. And there are some folks who either forgot or didn't really pay attention to that part of the deal, or can't afford it right now, or feel like they are hoping they can tell the insurance company the check is in the mail. But all kinds of some significant chunk of that 6 million. Perhaps up to 1 million. We don't know how many so far. At least Health and Human Services insists they don't have these figures either. The insurance companies know who's paid them. Then the second major factor is, look, of these 6 million, how many of them had insurance, had it canceled as Obamacare went into effect late last year, and are now buying new insurance, meaning there's no real net reduction in the number of people who are uninsured. And a decent number of people have, all over Twitter yesterday, all over the web. People have kind of saying, well, wait a second, this is, the number isn't as good as you say. And of course, the administration doesn't want to address those questions, just as Kathleen Sebelius insists she doesn't know who's paid, even though it's kind of like, it doesn't know how many people have paid for insurance, even though it's kind of a really important part of the entire insurance obtaining process. This is not a charity. You don't just, it's not like signing your name to a petition and presto changeo, you got it. So I'm actually fairly pleased with the reaction to that 6 million figure.
Well, we'll see. It's certainly going to be interesting to watch as this thing evolves, as we come up right against this deadline just in a matter of days.
Well, it's an iffy deadline.
It's a living, breathing deadline. Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. You've heard about the living constitution. This is a living deadline that apparently can't get pulled off of life support. Because now it's mid-April-ish is the official deadline.
For now.
For now, yes.
All right. Well, we'll leave that good martini there, and we will proceed to a very bad martini. A bad martini involving a well-respected, well-liked chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers, is getting ready to leave the Congress for greener pastures. Kyle Mullins from the MERS Political Report out of Michigan reacting this way.
Mike Rogers, it seemed like, was going to be an institution in the 8th Congressional District for the foreseeable future. For him to decide to step down to run a radio program is just shocking news.
Wait a minute. Did he say a radio? What? He's leaving? What's going on here, Jim?
Yeah, as I'm sure you're thinking, oh, good, just what we need, another radio host to competing in the field. So here, first of all, what's intriguing about this and kind of surprising is that Rogers, first of all, he's chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, which is really one of the influential and plum spots in Washington. Access to all kinds of state secrets and classified information. A lot of listeners probably have seen him on the Sunday morning shows, and he was usually good to offer, if not a scoop, he certainly would, be very careful not to leak classified information. But his take always usually was some variation of, yes, it's as bad as you think it is, which was all, very anti-Snowden and just kind of a really intriguingly, presumably well-informed guy. And this is a guy who's a former FBI agent, so this is a guy who's kind of familiar with the world of national security and topics like this. So it's completely out of the blue. His district is kind of, slightly Republican. I think there's going to be a little bit of a sweating about whether Republicans can keep the seat. But just kind of the talent drain. And I just, I don't want to throw a lot of stones at Cumulus Media or Rogers himself, but he obviously has already lined up his gig with Detroit radio station WJR. And he's going to take that job at some point early next year when his term ends. And we used to frown upon members of Congress lining up work while they're still in office because that seems a little, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I mean, I wonder if Cumulus Media needs any particular legislation introduced, passed, co-sponsored, sponsored, promoted. You're just kind of, and obviously we have rules against, lawmakers heading into lobbying positions. It just seems kind of weird that you can have an agreement to hire a member of Congress and then he stays in office for, another 9 months or so. So maybe this is all on the up and up, but it still kind of emits a bit of an odor, and it just seems weird to see the House the House chairman and the Intelligence Committee resigning very suddenly for a job that, no offense, Brett, but you or I could do that.
Of course we could. And happily, getting invited to make the big bucks there in Detroit and talk about Detroit issues. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's a bummer. He's a great guy, one of the grown-ups in the Congress, and certainly we're going to be sorry to see him move on down the road. So we will dispense with that bad martini. I see the waitress here bringing us a very, very weird martini. She keeps interrupting her travels by taking pictures of herself. I don't know what this is. We've got Ukraine. We've got the president. He's sitting down with Scott Pelley in an interview that's going to air tonight, and he's talking about this is a bad situation with these Russian troops on the border.
It may simply be an effort to intimidate Ukraine, or it may be that they've got additional plans.
So we've got thousands of troops on the border, military tensions. What does the State Department? What is the state spokesman, the State Department spokeswoman doing with this weird martini?
Apparently, that they're sending out a selfie. This is Jen Psaki, who you may recall from various Democratic campaigns in the past, now moving on to being the official spokeswoman for the State Department, speaking not merely for a campaign, but for all of America. And there's this nice little selfie of her holding up looks like a 8x11 sheet of paper and hastily scrawled, I think it says United for Ukraine, but I can't help but note that the I is very clear. So it's possible there's a typo in this Twitter thing.
No.
Which is, if you've been following Susan Rice, it's not unthinkable that they'd have typos in their Twitter feeds. But nonetheless, that she's sending a selfie, and she's smiling, she's giving the thumbs up. And that's what we're sending Ukraine, apparently. I don't know if selfies will be particularly effective if Russian tanks come across the border. I'm sure they'd much rather have anti-tank weapons or IEDs or body armor or sniper rifle. Look, here come the selfies. We're behind you, Ukraine. It's a perfectly appropriate crazy martini because it just is an example of this is an administration that goes through like the stagecraft of action much more than actual action. And so if it looks like you're helping the Ukrainians, it's much more important to them than actually helping the Ukrainians, who are probably like, we could use bullets, or missiles or things like that if the Russians come across the border, which, the president's statement indicates is not all that unthinkable.
Stop or I'll Snapchat.
Yeah, it did, and like I said, it wasn't even like she didn't even take the time to print out "United for Ukraine" in a good font or something like. No, it was hastily scribbled there because the N in Ukraine is a capital, but the A and the I are little, and it just you can tell that she took milliseconds and milliseconds of effort in this, and apparently that's supposed to like the hashtag hashtags as powerful as they can be aren't going to repel an invasion force. Don't do that. Pound sign, don't do that. Or pound sign, I've been shot. These are not really going to be very effective. And it just kind of seems like a silly and frivolous response to a, fairly significant national security problem here.
I only have one problem with this selfie. If you look at the picture, both her hands are visible. So is it technically a selfie?
That's a good point. This is a Dewey.
A Dewey.
Yeah, and thumbs up. Okay, hey, we're Ukraine is looking at this and say like, hey, China, do you want to help? You got any help from you guys? Are there any real countries around left? Because formerly the world's remaining superpower is off duty from here on. Once again, the 3 a.m. phone call is going straight to voicemail.
It sure is.
And I think the voicemail box is full. Please try again later.
Well, listen, I'm feeling great now, man. We got the good martini, which is questioning the crazy 6 million enrollees number, whether or not they've paid, who's paid, how they've paid. We've got the very bad martini of Representative Rogers leaving the Congress to go be a talk show host in Detroit instead of the Homeland Security chair or the Intelligence Committee chair. And finally, the weird selfie, the weird martini, which is a selfie, which might not be a selfie, and has questionable spelling efforts. So, Jim, what a way to wrap up a great week, man. And I'm just thrilled to have sat here and hang out with you and enjoy these 3 martinis. And I know you guys will be digging it back up again next week with Greg Corombos.
Brett, always enjoy it when you can step in, and looking forward to next week.
Likewise. And if you don't get me next time, I may be on the air in Detroit. I'm Brett Winterble for Greg Corombos. That's Jim Garrity from the National Review. It's the 3 Martini Lunch. We'll talk to you next time.